"You suck. You don't belong here. Why don't you just quit and go home?" That voice was loud and clear, but it wasn't a coach. It wasn't a commander. It wasn't an opponent across the field. That was the enemy inside my head attacking me every day as a cadet at West Point. As an Army football player, I was physically tough, and I thought that automatically made me mentally tough. Boy, was I wrong. Because as a soldier, the toughest battle I've ever fought was not in the mountains of Afghanistan. It wasn't in the deserts of Iraq. And as a coach, it certainly wasn't on the sidelines of professional baseball or football. The toughest battle I have ever fought was in this 8 inches between my ears. You've all faced the same adversary before a big meeting. When you're at a crossroads in your career or your relationship and you're laying awake at night just replaying that highlight reel of failure. As we reimagine humanity, the reality is we are all fighting a war for mental fitness. The good news is we can train our brains to fight and win the war from within. At West Point, I was surrounded by my classmates who were the best America had to offer, and I often wondered whether or not I belonged. On the outside, courage, confidence, and commitment. I was a Division I football player. I was physically fit. But on the inside, I was doubtful, insecure. I was struggling in the classroom and academically. And thanks to a trusted coach, I was introduced to mental fitness training. And I went from surviving to resilience and later to thriving, accomplishing my goal of graduating in 2001 and being commissioned as a field artillery officer. I would spend the next 2 decades leading soldiers in combat, to include 5 years with elite special forces units. I would later return to West Point and teach psychology and leadership and help usher in pioneering programs that would provide mental fitness training to hundreds and thousands of soldiers across the U.S. military. And today, I'm a mental performance and leadership coach in professional football. And I work with elite athletes and athletes at all levels, and I work with leaders in business, first responders, and everyday heroes like you to help develop confidence despite setbacks, control their emotions, stay committed towards their goals, and be able to grow through challenges. And what I found is that the same training principles and strategies that work for elite populations can work for anyone. Now, mental fitness is the ability to control how we think and act under stress and pressure. It's all about choices, how we choose to be able to train our brains like our body and craft, because mental fitness is just like physical fitness. And we rely on mental fitness training to be able to get healthier, resilient, and higher performing. Now, thanks to the science of neuroplasticity, we know that our brains can change over the course of our lifetime, so we can and should train our brains. Mental fitness also is a metaphor of a bridge. Think of it crossing this river that is challenge, change, and adversity that's constantly flowing throughout our lifetime. Now, it's also a way to connect us from who we are now to who we want to become. On the left-hand side of the bridge, you're going to see in red survival mode. That's when we're barely functioning. We're behind on sleep, and we don't want to wake up and get out of bed. Everyday tasks like paying bills and sending emails is a challenge. We feel overwhelmed and isolated sometimes. And the pillar that supports us when we are in survival mode are mental health care resources that you're all familiar with, like providers such as psychologists and psychiatrists who can help us when we're in crisis, or we just need somebody to talk to. Now, mental health is the foundation for all mental fitness. It's incredibly important, but not everything is a problem that needs to be solved. And you don't have to be sick to get better. Which leads us to the middle of the bridge, which is resilience. We can bounce back from adversity. And we're working really hard to handle the stressors of everyday life and work and family and finding that unique balance. We're getting things done, but our self-care suffers. And our relationships, well, they get the leftovers. Now, you have to get out of your comfort zone to develop resilience. And research on Vietnam prisoners of war down the road at UNC Charlotte have found that under extreme stress and trauma, that with the right mindset, the right support, and the right actions, you can actually develop what's called post-traumatic growth, or PTG. I personally experienced PTG and turned my struggles into strength, despite being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder just 5 years ago. Now, just because you're resilient doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be automatically mentally stronger. And that leads us to the right-hand side of the bridge, which is thriving. We're having the best day ever. We're connected to our family and friends with quality time. We're working towards our goals. And the pillar that supports us when we're in survival mode are mental performance coaches and consultants like me, and mental fitness training resources. At the upper range of that thriving mode is what's called peak performance. It's also known as the zone or flow states. It's when time slows down, things are easy, you're getting things done without even trying very hard. Research from my field of sports psychology has found that the zone is fleeting and very hard to replicate. So it's not the real goal of mental fitness, because the best of the best that I work with, they know they're not always going to have your A game. Sometimes you're going to have your C game or be in a C situation. And when you do, they know how to get a C plus consistently. That's called optimal performance. And that's the real goal of mental fitness, which is possible even when you're in survival mode or you're resilient. Now, the mental fitness bridge you see before you is a metaphor, but it's not just a fancy theoretical model. It's actually a practical tool that you can use to be able to check in with yourself. So I want you to try the check-in exercise over the next 15 seconds. And I want you to ask yourself the following 3 questions. Number 1, where am I right now on the mental fitness bridge? Am I surviving? Am I resilient? Or am I thriving? Number 2, why am I there? And number 3, what's one thing that I can do to fight to the right? Ask yourself those following 3 questions over the next 7 days. What you're going to find is that you're going to strengthen your mental muscle to build self-awareness. Now, the mental fitness bridge and the check-in exercise can also allow us to connect with other people and build empathy and compassion. So over the next 7 days, when you're checking in with yourself, also check in with 2 other people in your life, one professional, one personal. Ask them those first 3 questions, and then ask a very important 4th question, which is, what's one thing that I can do to help you fight to the right? You may just make a big difference in that someone person's day or in their lifetime. For example, in 2021, when I was working in professional baseball, I was supporting a minor league affiliate. And right before the game, the manager grabbed me, pulled me in the office, and said, Andy, I have some tough news. One of our star players, he just found out that he lost his grandmother due to COVID, and his mom is on life support in a hospital in Cuba. So I immediately sprung into action. I went out and I found him in the parking lot, pacing frantically on his phone, talking to his family. He was clearly distraught. When he got off the phone, I gave him a big bear hug. I didn't say anything. He broke down crying in my arms. And I asked him to sit down and talk. The problem was, his English wasn't very good, and my Spanish kind of sucked. But what wasn't lost in translation as we awkwardly went back and forth with a translation app was that he was no longer alone. As I drove him back to the hotel, I wished that I could do more for him. I saw him a month later before another game. He came up to me with a big smile, and he gave me a hug, and he said, Andy, I've got great news. My mom is home. She's happy. She's healthy. Thank you for being there for me when I needed it. And I said in much better Spanish, I'm so happy for you. You're welcome. I was just doing my job. I realized in that moment that that simple action as a teammate and doing my job build a connection and strengthen us forever. Because I helped him go from survival mode in his most weakest moment to being resilient in yellow. And the good news is, He later went to the thriving zone later that season by performing well enough to earn his major league debut. This story is a reminder to all of us that we are all on the front lines fighting the war for mental fitness. And we are solely responsible for our own mental fitness journey by training our brains like our body and craft and checking in with ourselves on a regular basis. But life is a team sport. And as social creatures, we rely on other people to build connections like our family and our friends and our loved ones. So it's up to us to make the choice to connect with them by checking in with them and getting them the right resources that they need when they need it, to meet them where they're at and help them get where they need to go on our mental fitness journey together. As I said before, mental fitness and personal growth is a choice. So if you're ready to win the war from within, then make the choice to join me. Choose to stand up. Step forward, and let's fight to the right together.